On today's show, it's a look at the jewels of our state. Jewels? Yes, our state parks. All 67 of them make up the crown of Minnesota. Daughter Laura and I share a fishing boat with Carol Evans' Julie Nelson. Can this old fishing guide handle these two TV personalities in the boat? They want to challenge me. Who's gonna win?
Yikes.
Next, it's time for another Wild in the Kitchen. What to do with all that walleye you've been catching this summer, right? Well, we've got the recipe for you.
As always, it's wildly delicious.
Our Minnesota Bound Classic this week takes a look at last year's Minnesota State Fair. See those plants around our Minnesota Bound cabin? Well, meet the company who makes ecological restoration their full-time business. Those stories and more, next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hi, everybody. Raven and I welcome you to the show. Raven's ready to go fishing, and I am too. But first, you know, it doesn't hurt to sometimes look back at some of the good things we've done here in Minnesota, and I can think of 67 of them. They're called our Minnesota State Parks. Here's a look back. They are so valued today, these islands of untampered nature. We call them Minnesota's jewels, our state parks, all 67 of them. Each jewel is special in its own way. Historic Split Rock Lighthouse on Lake Superior, a roaring Gooseberry Falls, Buffalo on the Prairie, a scene from yesteryear at Blue Mountains. In hindsight, what a gift we gave ourselves as the jewels shine in many ways. But it's the foresight of others we should honor. In 1885, the first attempt to establish a state park failed. It was going to be Minnehaha Falls State Park until the state ran out of money. Instead, Minneapolis bought the site for a city park in 1889. Finally, in 1891, Minnesota secured its first jewel, and it's a dandy, Itasca State Park, where the mighty Mississippi begins and where giant pines still stand as a reminder of northern Minnesota the way it used to be. Following Itasca, 4 years later, Minnesota added another jewel, Interstate State Park, located along the St. Croix River, one of America's original wild rivers. How fitting.
Glacial potholes were formed about 10,000 years ago in this park by a huge mile-wide river of glacial meltwater. As that was coursing south and carving through the very hard rock in this river valley, where it would start to spin and pick up gravel and sand and whip it around and around, it would create basically a liquid drill.
How about a taste of Halloween? In the hills of southeast Minnesota, Forestville State Park offers a mystery cave by day, bats by night.
The passages that we're in here are obviously air-filled, and once they're air-filled like this, other things occur. Stalactites, stalagmites, there are draperies, flowstone, pools and lakes. You can see the cave processes occurring right before your eyes.
How's this for Minnesota nice? We keep adding more jewels. Minnesota's newest state park is known as Lake Vermilion Sudan Underground Mine, combining scenic Lake Vermilion with a page from the state's mining history. And let's give credit where credit is due. Our park caretakers worked for DNR's Division of State Parks, launched way back in 1935. In 2017, park entrance fees were raised by the legislature to care for our parks. For example, a daily park vehicle permit went from $5 to $7, $2 more to see the best there is in Minnesota. Up next, 2 TV girls in a boat and 1 seasoned fishing guide.
Who did this?
What happens during an afternoon of fishing? Stay tuned to find out.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Minnesota Select GMC dealers, Jesse Treble's Safe Basements of Minnesota, Evinrude, the official outboard motor of Minnesota Bound, and by Kinetico.
You know, it's not often I get to have in my boat 2 television queens, Julie Nelson and Laura Schara. And then they challenge me to see who can catch the biggest and most fish. Guess who won? Fishing with Julie and Laura, a title for a new outdoor reality show starring angling divas from Minnesota.
Julie has super cute camo shorts on. I'm wearing some skinny jeans. And fish appreciate fashion.
This was my idea to invite Carol Evan anchor Julie Nelson and my daughter Laura Schara for a day of fishing. Well, sort of fishing.
All right, we're gonna man our battle stations, but first of all, get you guys rigged up.
Which meant first converting right-handed reels for left-handed Julie.
Claims I'm not normal. I'd just like to remind him that he invited me to come fishing today. An invite he may regret several times over before this day's over.
Yes, Julie and Laura insisted on a little friendly fishing contest.
So let's talk about the rules here. You two, I guess, moi.
So the first point goes for the first bass that's caught.
Any size.
Any size. So Julie,
Yes, darling.
the clutch point is we have to get the first bass because that point cannot be taken away from you.
First one, there's only one first bass
That's
caught.
right.
All right, well, you got your purses, ladies?
I got in the boat and put down my purse, and Ron just about had a heart attack. What is this, a purse in a fishing boat? That's how I roll, Ron. Get used to it.
Exactly.
To be fair, this is probably the second time I've gone fishing as an adult. And I grew up in Wisconsin. Is that bad?
Julie,
I'm
do
always
not
the
admit
one.
this.
I'm always the one on the boat. That's
These women
really
are just
happy to
mostly
be on
just
the
gonna
boat.
talk,
You know?
and I'm gonna be concentrating on fishing. That's the only advantage I have right now.
Are we officially fishing, Dad? Because I haven't.
Yes.
See,
The
he
contest
starts.
started very
He
quietly
starts
up
without
there.
yes, without even telling us.
Yeah, and about that casting,
Who did this?
The knot was created by the person on the boat whose last name is not Schara.
I know why they're gonna win. It's because all my time is spent undoing their tangles.
Julie, this is a great strategy we have going.
Thank you.
I'll keep fishing. You keep him distracted.
Since I have no skill, I have to come up with some sort of strategy. Come on, Laura.
Oh, darn! Dad, should we be fishing off the left or the right?
You figure it out.
sure enough, Julie's fishing line suddenly went tight.
Julie! Here she is! Ah!
You're a vegetarian. You'd be very happy about that.
Another lesson. Not all fish turn out to be weeds.
How many points is this worth, ladies?
-1.
Negative
But I
one.
think we're even now.
Yikes. Yep. There's more pressure now, girls. Here we are. What's the score?
So Julie, if we'd caught a bass, this is what it would look like. Yeah. We might change up the rules.
All right.
We're gonna add the longest weed into the competition.
And we win!
And that is a point.
win.
That's the overall point. Today we're getting wild in the kitchen, cooking up a summertime favorite.
Coming up, if you're looking for a go-to recipe for your walleye this summer, look no further.
All this just percolate together and create a nice little dish.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Border View Lodge.
Okay, it's time to go wild in the kitchen, and what could be better than another way to cook Minnesota's favorite dish, walleye?
Today we're getting wild in the kitchen cooking up a summertime favorite, which is walleye. And I'm here with Chef Kevin Kowalson from Firelight Grill House and Cocktail Bar. And Kevin, I understand we're doing a little twist on a shore lunch?
Yeah, we're gonna steam walleye in a bag with some sauteed vegetables.
Ooh, that sounds good. Anytime you say walleye, I also notice we're cooking with a little bit of white wine. I get excited.
Yes, yeah, me too.
All right, so what are the steps to getting started?
So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take the skin off the walleye fillet so we can put it in our bag. The other thing we're gonna do is there's a bit of bones here that we're gonna take out and we're gonna do like a slight V cut. So nobody wants to eat those bones.
Nobody wants bones.
Yeah, so before we put it in our bag, we're just gonna simply slice it in half.
All right, so we have our walleye ready. Now is it time for the vegetables?
Sure is, yeah. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna chop a little garlic,
Sounds delicious.
some roasted sweet corn. This I just threw in the oven for about 5 minutes. Just kind of softened it up. We're just gonna cut it off.
Okay. Notice we have some zucchini.
So what we're gonna do is you can either hand cut this or if you have a handy mandolin, which makes nice julienne cuts, carefully your fingers. Grab the tomatoes, we're gonna saute up those
Okay.
first.
So we're pre-sauteing these. Now, is this something we could do ahead of time if we wanted to take these out with us on a shore lunch?
Yeah, certainly, you can do that. So we got our tomatoes going, we're gonna throw in our zucchini, sweet corn, and our garlic. And this just kind of gives it a more in-depth flavor, sauteed flavor when you steam, as opposed to having it all steamed.
Another thing that I could not do at home. I would have corn all over my kitchen.
The vegetables are ready, now we can assemble the fish in the bag.
Okay, let's do it.
So first we're gonna put a little olive oil on the bottom.
How
Just
much?
about a tablespoon, yeah.
Tablespoon. Just gauge that.
Yeah. And we're just gonna season the fish.
With salt and pepper?
Yep, pretty liberally. And we can place the fish right in the bag. Now we're ready to put our vegetables on top.
Now these aren't cooked all the way through, just
No.
semi-cooked.
Yeah, just put a little sear on them just to soften up the garlic and get the flavors going.
You can definitely smell the garlic. It's
All right.
delish.
So once that's on there, I'll let you put the wine on. So we're just gonna do a little splash.
You sure it's just a little splash?
Just a little bit.
I guess you want to save more for your glass, right?
Perfect.
That good?
Yep.
Awesome.
And we're gonna take 2 slices of lemon, and then we'll take
Perfect.
just a little bit of fresh thyme and place that on as well.
All right, and our last ingredient, which is our favorite,
Whole butter.
butter.
We're just gonna do 2 small patties.
So is this about a tablespoon?
Yep.
Fantastic. Now's the time to seal this up.
It is, yep. That's
Okay.
gonna create a nice little environment for all this just to percolate together and create a nice little dish.
I love it.
Yeah.
So if you're cooking this over an open fire, how many minutes?
I would say 12 minutes.
12 minutes
Yeah.
and in the oven?
About 12 to 14.
About the same.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Place that on there.
Okay, here we go.
So we're gonna gently just kind of crinkle that open.
Ooh,
Yeah.
wow.
You see all the steam coming
Look
out?
at that.
Lift this over. And then we can take all that nice sauce, the butter and the wine.
Yes, we don't want to lose that.
A little of the crumb on there.
Our fresh breadcrumbs that we made
Yeah.
from scratch.
So that's gonna be a nice texture, nice contrast.
A little
to
crunch. Everybody likes a little crunch for
Yeah,
their
exactly.
dinner.
So we're gonna throw some of those pea tendrils on there.
Okay, locally grown.
Yeah, nice bright, fresh taste.
It's definitely looking very summer-like.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Chef Kevin, for another easy and healthy version of shore lunch. Of course, I have to go in for a bite here. As always, it's wildly delicious. Very good.
Thanks.
Still ahead, meet a company that partners with Mother Nature to make a difference.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Ellsworth Cooperative Creamery, Minnesota Rebound, and by Totem Resorts.
Coming up, you know, when you go to the Minnesota State Fair and come to our Minnesota Bound cabin, you'll see some prairie flowers and prairie plants scattered all around. Well, that doesn't happen by accident. Bill Shirk has the story.
Prairies aren't just beautiful, they're pretty too. pretty rare. Get this, less than 1% of Minnesota's native prairies remain. Way back when, native plants provided darn near all of Minnesota's habitat for bugs, butterflies, bees, and birds. Exactly why Minnesota Native Landscapes business booms.
We have crews out on about 300 projects a year.
This Otsego-based company rehabilitates and reintroduces native prairies and plants on darn near every scale.
So there's really no project too small. Pollinator gardens are popping up in yards.
The work all starts on a central Minnesota farm where seed fields come alive with color. The team grows giant plots of all kinds of plants native to Minnesota. Come harvest time, they focus on seeds.
We run every day, or 5 days a week anyway.
Vintage seed machines run all year long.
This is basically starting material here. Pretty needle in a haystack to find the seed. That particular machine has 3 different screens. It shakes back and forth, and the good stuff comes out on this end.
That seed will go either into project fields or into Native Landscapes greenhouses.
We start seeding actually before February, so it's more of a year-round production facility than you'd think.
As the tiny plugs grow, workers move them to bigger containers.
So this is a larger plug. There are 36 plants in a tray. This is an order that's getting pulled for a wetland restoration.
Before you know it, the plants are ready to go out the door. This order is headed to a wetland project.
4,800 plants are going to go and get installed on Monday.
Dried seed is the other big part of the business. Habitat teams plant seed even in the shadow of big city life.
We're putting down a mix of prairie grasses and flowers. Once it grows up, it will be a lot of tall grasses and flowers that will really enhance the landscape. It's kind of bringing back the landscape to what it was 100 years ago.
Prairies take patience, no doubt. Think 3 to 5 years for new plantings to start to mature. Once they grow,
so you start over there and start doing your fence line.
Work really heats up.
And we'll do the same thing here. Al, now focus on this here.
The company's habitat team burns projects every spring.
Prairies are dependent on fire.
Before settlement, lightning sparked fires that would race across the prairie.
It invigorates the native grasses, but then also any invasives that have moved into the area will knock them back because they're greening up, they're in their prime growing season.
Burning is getting a lot more popular. People are starting to understand prescribed burning. They're starting to see the benefits that it can provide.
Back out on Minnesota Native Landscapes seed field, the wild bergamot and blazing star fields are about to mature. So next time you see one of these trucks around town,
people are starting to hear more about using natives, and they're starting to learn a little bit more and do a lot more restoration.
understand real progress actually means going back in time, back to Minnesota's native landscape.
Okay, now I know you just have to come to the Minnesota Bound Log Cabin and see those beautiful prairie plants, right? Go across the street and have a pronto pup. What's not to like? Well, that about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors. I'm Ron Schara, and of course, always the star of the show. And the captain of my fishing boat is Raven. Yeah.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. To get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.